Hello, Joshua Inman here, and I just wanted to read you a little story, The Emperor's New Clothes by Hans Christian Andersen. And you might be asking yourself, why would Joshua be reading us this story? So stay tuned. Got to get my readers on here. There once was an emperor who loved new clothes. He spent all of his money on clothes. He spent all of his time trying on new suits and showing them off. One day, two men came to town where the emperor had lived. They said they were weavers. They said they could weave the most beautiful clothes in the world. The men were not really weavers, though they were liars. The two men went straight to the emperor's palace. "Your Majesty," said one of the men, "everybody knows about the beautiful cloth we weave. But have you heard the amazing thing about it?" The other man said. "Some people cannot see our cloth. They cannot see it even though they're looking straight at it." "Cannot see it," said the emperor. "What kind of people cannot see the beautiful cloth?" "Stupid people," said one man, "and people who are not good at their jobs," said the other. "That is truly amazing," the emperor said. "I must have a suit made out of this cloth." The emperor told the two men at the beginning to begin weaving at once. The men said that they would need a lot of money and that they would need the best gold thread and the best silk thread to weave with. The emperor gave them the money and the thread, and he gave them a room in his palace to work in. The men put up two big looms to weave on, but they did not put the thread on the looms. They put the thread away in a bag. Day after day, the two men sat at the empty looms and pretended to weave. Everybody was waiting for the cloth to be finished. Everyone was waiting to find out if their friends would be able to see it. The emperor wanted to go and look at the cloth. He was sure he would be able to see it. "I know I'm not stupid," he said to himself, "and I know I'm good at being an emperor, but still, just this once, I think I'll send somebody else." So the emperor sent his chief minister down to the workroom. "How do you like the beautiful cloth?" one of the men asked. The chief minister looked at one loom and then at the other. He couldn't see any cloth because there wasn't any cloth to see. "Dear me," he said to himself, "I can't see the cloth. Am I stupid? I never thought I was. Am I bad at my job? If I am, I must keep it a secret. I must not say that I cannot see the cloth." So the chief minister said to the men, "The cloth is beautiful." "Be sure to tell the emperor," said one of the men. "Tell him about the beautiful colors and tell him how the gold thread shines." The chief minister went back to the emperor. "The colors are beautiful," he said. "The reds, the purples, and how the gold thread shines." The next day, the two men asked the emperor for more money and more gold thread and more silk thread. The emperor gave them the money and the thread. The men put the money in their pockets and they put the thread away in their bag, and they kept on pretending to weave. Soon the emperor wanted to know how his cloth would be finished. This time he sent the second chief minister down to the workroom. The second chief minister looked at one loom and then at the other. He couldn't see a thing on the loom because there wasn't anything to see. "Oh dear," he thought, "I can't see the cloth, and I'd better pretend that I can." So he said to the men, "The cloth is beautiful." And he went back to the emperor and said, "This cloth is really beautiful." The emperor couldn't wait any longer. He had to see the beautiful cloth for himself. The emperor went down to the workroom. He took his chief minister and his second chief minister with him. The first chief minister looked at the empty looms. "How the gold shines," he said. The second chief minister said, "The cloth is really beautiful." The emperor looked at the loom and then at the other. He couldn't see a thing on the loom. "What is this?" he said to himself. "Am I stupid? No, that's not possible. Is it possible that I'm not a good emperor? Oh no, that would be terrible. Well, I have to pretend I see the beautiful cloth. So the emperor said to the two men, "Excellent, beautiful, wonderful." And he gave each of them a medal to show how pleased he was. "And now, your majesty," said one of the men, "we are ready to cut the cloth and make a suit for you." "Splendid," said the emperor. "We're having a big parade next week, and I can wear my new suit then." Before the day of the parade, the two men stayed up all night. They used more than 20 candles to light the room so everyone could see how hard they were working. They pretended to take the cloth off the looms. They moved their hands around in the air and snapped their scissors together. They used big needles and pretended to sew them, but the needles had no thread. At last it was morning, the day of the big parade. "And now," one of the men said, "the emperor's new clothes are ready." The emperor went to the workroom at once. One of the men pretended to hold out a coat. "Here is your new coat, your majesty," he said. "It's light as a feather." "Here are your trousers," said the other man. "And here is your long royal cape. Your new clothes are so light you will hardly feel them on you." The emperor took off the clothes he was wearing, and the two men pretended to help him put on the new ones. The emperor turned around and around in front of the mirror. "My new clothes feel as light as a feather," he said. Two noblemen were supposed to hold up the ends of the new royal cape. They couldn't see the cape, and they couldn't see the trousers or the coat either, but they weren't going to say so. They felt around on the floor and pretended to pick up the ends of the cape. Then the emperor and the noblemen marched out of the palace. In the streets, people were waiting to see the big parade. "Look at the emperor," people cried. "What a beautiful new suit he has." Nobody could see the emperor's new clothes, but nobody was going to say so. "Look at the emperor," everybody said. "What a beautiful new suit he's wearing." "He hasn't got anything on," a little child said. "Did you hear what the child said?" somebody whispered. "A little child said the emperor hasn't got anything on. Hasn't got anything on." One person said it, and then another, and then another. "Hasn't got anything on," everybody said at last. "The emperor hasn't got anything on." The emperor knew that the people were right, but he had to stay in the parade until it was over. The parade must go on, the emperor thought, and I must keep going too. So the emperor walked proudly the rest of the way. And then the two gentlemen walking behind him, holding up the ends of the new royal cape, the cape that wasn't there. And you might ask, why would I be sharing the story of the emperor's new clothes? Well, here's why. Because we're living in a society today that says there is an infinite amount of genders and that you can't question it, and that they can't even decide what a male or a female is. Nobody can even define a woman, and yet the Berenstain Bears can clearly tell us a he bear and a she bear. God created two genders, but in today's day and age, people have deluded themselves to believe that there is an infinite amount and nobody can define it. Nobody can even describe it or define anything. And yet it's being perpetuated in our society because everyone's tiptoeing around the subject because they're afraid of cancel culture. They're afraid of the LGBT bullies and activists. And so they're all buying a lie. They've been gaslighting us for years, and we've bought into it because so few people are willing to stand up for the truth and say what the obvious thing, like the little girl in the story. Everyone's just afraid of offending. People are afraid of losing their jobs. They're afraid of being intolerant. They're being bullied into silence. And yet it's so obvious to everybody what's really going on, but no one's speaking up. And so I wanted to share, I thought this story was such a timely story for our society in today's day and age. You know, and I'm not trying to be unkind to those who have gender confusion. I was a gender confused boy in my childhood, but you know, luckily my parents didn't fuel my delusion, and that the society back then is not the society of today. And so I wasn't pushed down a conveyor belt of being a trans, although I could have easily ended up that way. And I'm very thankful to my parents and to God for protecting me from that. But sadly, so many people today, so many kids today are being fast-tracked on this conveyor belt of transitioning. And I could go into a whole lot about that. I'm not going to. But there is no confusion too great that God cannot untangle or restore. That's what I've learned from my own healing journey. And, you know, I wrote a book about my experience in my life. It's called Identity Lost and Found, and available on Amazon or on my personal website, joshuadinman.com. And it explains my own gender confusion, my struggles, and the things that led me to that, and why I believe I was gender confused. But it also has God's redemption for my life and how he restored me. And so I hope that's an encouragement to you, that we need to stand for truth, because so few people are doing it. And so they're, you know, because they're able to gaslight us with these kinds of concepts and nobody's speaking out against it, they're learning they can gaslight us with anything, and people are buying it hook, line, and sinker because they're afraid. And so we do not live in a spirit of fear. If we are believers, we have the Spirit of God and we can stand for truth. And so God bless you, and I hope this is an encouragement.